Yesterday at December 14th, about 3:40 in the afternoon, LAPD responded to a residence, the residence of Rob and Michelle Reiner, located in West Los Angeles Division.
What investigators uncovered inside Rob Reiner's Los Angeles home has sent shockwaves through Hollywood. Charges have now been filed, key details remain sealed, and authorities are warning the public against speculation as the case accelerates. In this video, we break down what officials have confirmed so far, what they're not saying, and why the next few days could change everything. Charges filed. A Hollywood dynasty shattered. Los Angeles County prosecutors announced that Nick Reiner has been formally charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder following the deaths of his parents, filmmaker Rob Reiner and photographer-producer Michelle Singer Reiner. The charges were filed after authorities determined that the circumstances surrounding the deaths met the statutory threshold for intentional homicide. Officials confirmed that the filing includes a special circumstance allegation based on the presence of multiple victims, a designation that significantly elevates the legal stakes of the case.
My name is Nathan Hochman. I'm the District Attorney of Los Angeles County. Today I'm here to announce that our office will be filing charges against Nick Reiner, who is accused of killing his parents, actor-director Rob Reiner, and photographer-producer Michelle Singer Reiner.
According to the District Attorney's Office, the charges expose the defendant to the most severe penalties available under California law. Prosecutors state that a conviction could result in life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, and that the death penalty remains a legal option, although no final determination has been made on whether it will be pursued. The announcement places the case on a narrow procedural path where evidentiary standards, jury considerations, and appellate durability become central concerns. Authorities emphasize that the transition from investigation to prosecution reflects a conclusion that sufficient evidence exists to support allegations of premeditated murder. While prosecutors declined to disclose specific evidence, they confirmed that the alleged crime involved a knife and occurred inside the family's Los Angeles home. Officials reiterated that additional forensic and timeline details remain sealed as the case proceeds toward arraignment. The filing immediately intensified public attention due to Rob Reiner's prominence in the entertainment industry and his long-standing political activism. However, prosecutors stressed that the legal process does not distinguish between high-profile defendants and private citizens. The case is being handled under standard homicide protocols, with oversight from specialized units experienced in complex and emotionally charged prosecutions. Analytically, the inclusion of the multiple murder special circumstance signals prosecutorial confidence, but also raises the burden of proof. Legal analysts note that such cases demand meticulous evidentiary presentation, particularly when the alleged perpetrator and victims are members of the same family. The District Attorney's Office has acknowledged that intrafamilial homicide cases are among the most difficult to prosecute due to their intimate nature and the heightened scrutiny applied by courts and juries. As the case advances, the filing of charges establishes a point of no return. The investigation has now entered a phase governed by court procedure rather than law enforcement discretion. What began as a death investigation has become a full criminal prosecution, setting in motion a judicial process with irreversible consequences for all parties involved. Inside the crime scene, what authorities will and won't say. Authorities confirmed that Rob Reiner and Michelle Singer Reiner were found dead inside their Los Angeles home on Sunday. Law enforcement has not released an exact time of death, stating that investigators are awaiting the coroner's report before establishing a definitive timeline. Officials emphasized that the deaths were discovered indoors and that the location immediately raised concerns requiring a coordinated law enforcement response. Police state that the crime is believed to have been committed with a knife. Beyond that confirmation, investigators have declined to disclose further forensic details, including the condition of the scene, the sequence of events, or the specific evidence recovered. Prosecutors and police officials have repeatedly indicated that withholding such information is necessary to preserve the integrity of the case as it moves through the court system.
Again, police confirming 2 people found dead inside this Brentwood home. I'm going to step back for you so you can see just what we're looking at here. About a block away, this is off of South Chadbourne Avenue near Hanover Street. As you mentioned, Susan, the call initially coming in for police around 3:30 or so this afternoon. We know that, again, 2 people found dead inside, the ages and the 78-year-old man and a 68-year-old woman. So far, LAPD not confirming the identity of those 2 people found dead inside, but as you just stressed, the home is owned by famous...
According to law enforcement, the initial response began with the Los Angeles Fire Department, which was requested to assist at the residence. After first responders assessed the situation, police officers were notified and dispatched to the scene. Upon arrival, officers conducted a preliminary evaluation and determined that a crime had occurred. That determination prompted the involvement of the Los Angeles Police Department's Robbery and Homicide Division, which assumed control of the investigation. Once homicide detectives took over, the residence was treated as an active crime scene. Officials have not confirmed whether anyone else was present at the home at the time of discovery, nor have they identified who requested emergency assistance. Police have stated only that standard investigative procedures were followed and that all relevant evidence was secured for analysis. Analytically, the limited disclosure reflects a strategic approach commonly used in high-profile homicide cases. By restricting the release of scene-specific information, prosecutors reduce the risk of contaminating witness testimony, influencing potential jurors, or compromising evidentiary challenges later in court. This restraint is especially significant in cases involving family members, where defense strategies often scrutinize investigative decisions in detail. The involvement of specialized homicide investigators further signals the seriousness of the case. The Robbery and Homicide Division typically handles complex or sensitive investigations, particularly those expected to draw sustained public attention. As the case progresses, authorities have indicated that additional details will emerge through formal court filings rather than public briefings, reinforcing that the resolution of key questions will occur within the judicial process rather than through public speculation. The arrest, a quiet detention after solid police coordination. Law enforcement officials confirmed that Nick Reiner was located in a Los Angeles park and taken into custody without incident. Authorities state that the arrest occurred after investigators narrowed their search through coordinated efforts involving Los Angeles Police Department detectives and the U.S. Marshals Service. No resistance was reported, and no injuries were sustained during the detention. Police indicate that the arrest followed a deliberate investigative process rather than an emergency manhunt. Officials describe the outcome as the result of methodical case development, supported by interagency cooperation and sustained surveillance. Specific tactics used to locate the suspect have not been disclosed, with authorities citing the need to protect investigative methods and preserve the integrity of the prosecution.
Who is Nick Reiner, the son of famed director Rob Reiner and producer Michelle Singer Reiner? He was arrested by LAPD and believed by investigators to be, quote, responsible for the death of his parents. So how'd we get here? Well, it's no secret that Nick has struggled with addiction and behind closed doors.
Following the arrest, Nick Reiner was transported into custody and booked on suspicion of murder. Law enforcement officials declined to provide details regarding his condition at the time of detention, including whether he appeared impaired or distressed. Questions related to potential drug use were not addressed, and investigators emphasized that unverified factors would not be discussed outside of court proceedings. Analytically, the restrained handling of the arrest reflects a broader prosecutorial strategy centered on evidentiary control. By avoiding public commentary on ancillary issues, authorities limit the risk of introducing narratives that could complicate jury selection or invite challenges to procedural fairness. In cases involving high-profile victims and family members, such restraint is often viewed as essential to maintaining credibility in later judicial review. The involvement of the U.S. Marshals Service suggests that investigators anticipated the need for additional federal support, either due to logistical considerations or the sensitivity of the case. While officials did not elaborate on the nature of that assistance, the coordination underscores the seriousness with which the case was approached once homicide investigators identified a primary suspect. As the case moves forward, the arrest marks a clear transition from investigative gathering to prosecutorial preparation. Authorities have indicated that subsequent disclosures will occur through formal legal channels rather than law enforcement briefings. The quiet nature of the detention stands in contrast to the magnitude of the charges that followed, reinforcing a pattern in which procedural discipline takes precedence over public spectacle. The focus, officials suggest, remains on building a case capable of withstanding sustained judicial scrutiny rather than responding to external pressure or speculation. A career that defined generations. Rob Reiner was a filmmaker whose career spanned several decades and whose work shaped contemporary American cinema. He directed numerous widely recognized films, including When Harry Met Sally, This Is Spinal Tap, The Princess Bride, Stand By Me, Misery, and A Few Good Men. Each project contributed to both critical and commercial success, establishing Reiner as a prominent figure in Hollywood, with influence extending beyond box office results. Beyond his filmmaking, Reiner maintained a consistent presence in political and social discourse. He was publicly aligned with liberal causes and actively supported Democratic campaigns, leveraging his visibility to advocate for policy and civic engagement. His involvement extended into issues such as civil rights, healthcare reform, and artistic freedom, underscoring the intersection of his cultural and political impact.
Reiner was an award-winning actor, director, producer, writer, and political activist. He first rose to nationwide prominence for his role in the CBS sitcom All in the Family, playing the part of Michael Stivic, also known as Meathead. He won 2 Emmy Awards for his performance on the show. Reiner then went on to take up directing. He was responsible for a string of highly acclaimed and culturally significant hit movies, among them Stand By Me, When Harry Met Sally, Misery, and A Few Good Men.
The combination of cinematic achievement and public advocacy amplified the response to his death. Industry observers and colleagues have noted that Reiner's contributions were both professional and personal, shaping the careers of actors, writers, and directors who collaborated with him over the years. His influence is recognized as enduring, with films that continue to generate discussion and analysis, reflecting both narrative innovation and audience resonance. Analytically, the prominence of the victims contributes to the intensity of institutional and public attention surrounding the case. High-profile cases introduce additional pressures on prosecutors, investigators, and the courts, as the scrutiny of media, public discourse, and political observers can influence procedural considerations. Reiner's stature, therefore, not only contextualizes the broader public response, but also frames the legal proceedings within a landscape where attention to detail, evidentiary integrity, and procedural correctness is heightened. The deaths of Reiner and his spouse, given their public roles and societal visibility, emphasize the dual dimension of the investigation: the personal tragedy of a family homicide, and the systemic obligation of law enforcement and prosecutors to manage a case under both public and legal oversight. Their professional and civic influence ensures that the investigation, arrest, and prosecution will continue under close observation, underscoring the intersection between cultural significance and judicial accountability. Hollywood reacts: a mensch, a friend, someone you could rely on, following the deaths of Rob Reiner and Michelle Singer. Reiner, reactions from colleagues and industry professionals were immediate, somber, and widespread. Prominent figures in Hollywood acknowledged the personal and professional impact of the Reiner's work, highlighting Rob Reiner's reputation as a reliable collaborator and committed advocate within the entertainment industry. Descriptions emphasize trustworthiness, loyalty, and integrity, characteristics repeatedly noted in public statements and social media commentary. Early reporting indicates that initial speculation considered the possibility of a break-in or accidental circumstance. As investigative details emerged, it became clear that the situation involved a deliberate act resulting in the deaths of both individuals. The transition from conjecture to verified information intensified public and professional concern, shifting perception from an isolated incident to a serious familial homicide.
The killing of Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle in their family home has shocked people around the world. But for a moment, I just want you to see Rob Reiner as he was in life. In September, I sat down with him as he was out promoting a sequel to his groundbreaking mockumentary, This Is Spinal Tap.
Industry observers noted the contrast between Reiner's public persona and the personal nature of the crime. The deaths were widely recognized not merely as the loss of prominent figures, but as an intimate family tragedy. Analysts suggest that this dynamic contributed to the heightened media attention, as audiences sought to reconcile the public achievements of the Reiners with the severity of the criminal investigation. From a procedural perspective, public statements and social media commentary required careful monitoring by law enforcement and prosecutors. Officials emphasize that while public reaction is significant in shaping discourse, it cannot influence the legal process. The documentation of public sentiment, however, provides context for understanding the broader societal impact of high-profile intrafamilial homicides. Analytically, the evolution of public perception underscores the intersection between professional legacy and private tragedy. The early disbelief and speculation reflect a human response to unexpected violence, while the shift to verified information illustrates how investigative reporting and official disclosures guide societal understanding. This chapter demonstrates how perception evolves in parallel with formal investigation, highlighting both the procedural and emotional dimensions inherent in cases involving prominent figures. A family's public struggle with addiction. Public records and media reports indicate that Nick Reiner struggled with substance abuse and addiction for many years prior to the events leading to his parents' deaths. These challenges were widely acknowledged by the family and became a matter of public discussion, particularly in the context of professional and artistic projects that address the subject directly. In 2015, Rob Reiner and Nick Reiner collaborated on the semi-autobiographical film Being Charlie, which chronicled a young man's struggles with addiction, rehabilitation, and the impact of substance abuse on family dynamics. Production records and interviews confirm that the project involved both father and son in writing, directing, and development capacities, reflecting a shared effort to confront and document the personal effects of long-term addiction. The film's narrative explored the complexities of recovery, the difficulties of rehabilitation programs, and the strain such issues placed on parental relationships.
The 32-year-old spoke publicly about his long history with drug use. His experience inspired a 2015 film he co-wrote with his dad, called Being Charlie.
Let me see those. My mother's oxys.
It's a story of a father in politics with a son who is addicted to drugs.
You've had plenty of choices, Charlie. Rehab or jail, quite a wide selection.
Reports indicate that Michelle Singer Reiner and Rob Reiner publicly acknowledged periods of desperation and frustration in managing their son's struggles. They cited instances in which rehabilitation professionals advised them that Nick was being manipulative, and the family initially accepted these assessments. Subsequent statements suggest that both parents later believed that they should have prioritized their son's perspective over external guidance, particularly in evaluating the effectiveness of treatment programs. Analytically, the family's history with addiction situates the current case within a broader context of long-term behavioral and mental health challenges. While prosecutors have emphasized that prior substance abuse or family dynamics do not determine culpability, legal observers note that such background information may inform defense strategies, expert testimony, or considerations regarding motive and intent. The collaboration on Being Charlie also reflects a period in which familial relationships were publicly documented, demonstrating both efforts toward reconciliation and the enduring complexities of a high-profile family navigating private struggles under public scrutiny. The documentation of addiction, recovery, and parental intervention establishes a factual backdrop against which current legal proceedings will unfold, highlighting the persistent tension between personal history and judicial evaluation. This chapter underscores the contrast between the family's earlier public efforts to address and manage substance abuse and the current criminal investigation, emphasizing how prior behavioral patterns intersect with procedural and evidentiary considerations in complex intrafamilial homicide cases. What happens next? Court, caution, and no speculation. Nick Reiner currently awaits arraignment following his arrest on suspicion of murdering his parents, Rob Reiner and Michelle Singer Reiner. Court officials previously determined that he was not medically cleared to appear at an earlier scheduled hearing, delaying formal proceedings. Law enforcement and judicial authorities emphasize that the arraignment will mark the official commencement of legal adjudication, including the reading of charges and the defendant's entry of a plea.
We've known them for many, many years, and we were supposed to be seeing them that night, last night, and we got the news.
Senate First Lady Michelle Obama revealing that frightening detail. Meanwhile, Reba McEntire got emotional when we spoke with her last night. His legacy is his work. Usher will miss him.
Prosecutors have explicitly declined to comment on potential mental health issues, motive, or any unverified aspects of the case. Authorities continue to caution the public against speculation, rumor, and hearsay, noting that such narratives could compromise the integrity of the investigation and judicial process. Statements from the district attorney's office stress that all factual developments will be disclosed through formal court filings and official briefings, rather than through media conjecture. Legal analysts observe that cases involving intrafamilial homicide present distinct challenges. Evidence must be meticulously collected, witnesses thoroughly vetted, and procedural safeguards strictly maintained. The intimate nature of family-related crimes requires heightened attention to detail, as the prosecution must navigate complex dynamics while ensuring compliance with evidentiary and constitutional standards. District Attorney Nathan Hochman notes that family homicide cases are among the most difficult and emotionally charged prosecutions handled by his office. He emphasizes that the personal nature of the crime adds layers of investigative and procedural complexity, from evidence collection to courtroom presentation. Officials underline that the full factual record, including any mitigating or explanatory information, will only emerge through the structured legal process. Analytically, the case is positioned at the intersection of public interest and procedural discipline. While public and media attention remains intense due to the prominence of the victims, investigators and prosecutors maintain a strict delineation between confirmed facts and unverified reports. The unfolding legal process will determine both culpability and the presentation of evidence in a controlled judicial environment. The trajectory of the case moving forward demonstrates the balance between urgency and caution. All parties involved, law enforcement, prosecution, and the courts, operate under frameworks designed to protect the integrity of the investigation and ensure that adjudication proceeds based on verified facts rather than speculation. The outcome, authorities stress, will be determined through formal judicial mechanisms, with the public receiving verified updates only as the case advances through the court system. What do these events reveal about the limits of trust, family, and accountability? Before it's too late, consider the consequences of silence and inaction. Share your thoughts in the comments below on what lessons this case holds. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.